Welcome to Jets Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. The New York Jets back on the football field. The first practice of 2024 training camp. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen welcoming in. The first practice was none other than Ian Rapoport of NFL Network. Rap Sheet, thanks for joining us.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a nice day for training camp. A little gloomy, but we like that because it could get really hot.
I mean, the alternative. I wore a black shirt today, as you guys are. We're not matching, but I was like, all right, is this going to be like 95? Am I going to be dying? It's going to be okay. All right, I'll go with the black shirt and I'll save the lighter for hotter days.
So do you need time to ramp up like these guys? The Jets are going to have 4 straight practices before a padded practice on Monday. You're just getting reacclimated yourself, being an NFL insider after your trip to Greece, correct?
I mean, there's no acclimation period at all. Like, I basically went from Greece, and I've been playing as much golf as humanly possible this summer. And then yesterday, it's like, all right, 23 teams report. There'll probably be some things. And there were so many things. There was the Haason Reddick holdout. There was Brandon Ayuk showing up. There was CeeDee Lamb holdout. There were contracts for, Tyson Campbell and Amari Cooper and Stafford and, like, so many different things. I was sort of like, all right, I guess we're back. And then, driving out here this morning, I was like, we are really, really back.
Absolutely. You mentioned Haason Reddick. Obviously, that's one of the, if not the biggest storyline here at Jets camp. Just what can you share? What kind of information do you have on the status of the Jets and Reddick, who was acquired in April?
That's right. April 1st, he was acquired. And, I think acquired with the thought of, at some point doing some adjustment to his contract, because that was really why he wanted out of Philly. He didn't want out of Philly, but wanted, to be compensated. And I think for veterans, especially ones who have performed, that third contract, or is it fourth? It might actually be fourth contract for him. But anyway, that third big extension, that's the one you really got to fight for, because that's kind of the one that differentiates you from just the other kind of random veterans. So I think Reddick was like, you know what? I'm going to do what I can to get this contract, even if it involves being traded. He was, of course, eventually traded, and they have not been able to work out a deal. And that's okay, and there's different ways to do it. I was a little surprised, to be completely honest, that it ended up as a holdout, because that means fines. And
$50,000 a day, according to the CBA.
That's right. Yep. And, I think the other thing, it doesn't always endear yourself to the team that just traded for you and has high hopes. And I think in a system that, he's going to be really good in. So that situation's unresolved. It is certainly not impossible. I think there are plenty of different solutions. There are long-term solutions. There are short-term solutions. There's all sorts of stuff. They just have not figured it out yet. So until they do, it'll be a holdout.
As far as the timetable is concerned, when do you think we could see some sides moving? It's the first day of training camp here.
Yeah, I mean, the fines are real. Players hate being fined. And, he's made a lot of money in his career, but, like, talk to any player that's been fined any amount, and they absolutely hate it. So you have to know that he's pretty serious about wanting a long-term extension. And I would say this for him, like, obviously, again, everybody wants the long-term extension. There is an argument to be made for doing something this year, getting some sort of bump. Amari Cooper did something. I'm not saying this is what he should do, but Amari Cooper did something yesterday where he got his salary guaranteed, and then he got $5 million in incentives. Was it a perfect solution for the player? No. But it's a solution where he can make a little more money if he performs, but still gets to be a free agent and cash in next year. Like, there is that middle ground that I think could potentially be the answer here. It just hasn't been the answer yet. So, and it's weird. I'm sure it's annoying for the Jets. You trade for a guy, you'd like him to be here. But if they don't feel good about doing the business deal that he wants, then, this is what they're doing.
He's an outstanding player. 27 sacks.
Going to be
2 seasons.
Going to be very good here when he comes.
Yeah, and he's scheduled to make more than $14 million, which is, I think, 19th amongst edge rushers here in 2024 at this point.
Yeah, and wants a little more. And again, like, there's, we saw this year the really good edge rusher market took a big jump. Brian Burns got, I think it ended up being 28 and change. We saw Josh Hines-Allen get a little more than that. I think, if I remember correctly, it was a little more than $28 million. So, like, that's what the guys who are getting their second contracts get. Generally, third contract guys kind of not as high. So my guess is it would come in lower. But again, the other thing for him is he's going to come here and he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
So, even if he doesn't get a new deal, there's the thought of him just balling out and cashing in next year. Like, that's not a bad option either, but it has to be something that he's willing to do, is come in, play, and then potentially earn a contract extension for 2025.
Look, Haason Reddick's obviously a big storyline here, but so is this guy on the screen right here,
Yeah, I remember
number
that
8,
guy.
Aaron Rodgers, back playing football. At the end of last year, like, we're not privy to those practices, but supposedly he's running the scout team offense and he's making plays. Now with a full offseason of rehab, like, what do you expect from Aaron Rodgers essentially after 1.5 years of not playing football?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is, like, people kind of forget, like, by the end in Green Bay, like, he was pretty banged up. He was pretty injured, had the thumb injury, like, was definitely, he likes to play through everything. I'm sure would have played through the Achilles if he could have last year, and obviously tried to come back. I actually don't think they were that far away from him actually coming back, which would have been unbelievable. He is very good, and I look forward to people realizing how very good he is. And, we'll see it some in training camp, and I don't know if we'll see it in the preseason games. Who knows? But when the regular season starts, I think it is going to be interesting for everyone to kind of wake up and be like, wow, this guy is still really good. Because there are some throws that he can make that nobody else can make. And I think, with this defense and, which should be a much better offensive line and improved skill group, like, the team could be really good. And I think he's going to be a major reason why.
How much do you think he's motivated by the fact that I have an opportunity to do something here with an organization that hasn't won in so long? NFL, a playoff drought.
Yeah.
You're talking 13 years, but also he's 40 years old, coming off an Achilles where he's going to turn 41 in December.
Well, and I think, for Aaron Rodgers, like, I do not pretend to understand what's going on in his brain. I mean, anyone who's listened to an interview that he's done knows there's a lot of things and a lot of nuances and a lot of levels, and it's not all it's hard. It's really honestly hard to put into words what he's thinking all the time, but he certainly does seem like someone who would really, really, really enjoy showing everyone that he still got it and that this organization can win the Super Bowl. Like, I think he is really going to enjoy the kind of us against the world. People didn't think we could do it. People didn't think I would come back. Like, I think he's really going to enjoy that part of his comeback story. Now, winning a Super Bowl is great anyway, and that will, if that happens, I think he'll enjoy all parts of it, but certainly that part specifically.
This Jets offensive line, 3/5 are new. Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, as it gets, is like new in air quotes because he was here before, and John Simpson is also new. Then with the addition of Olu Fashanu, just as security almost for this team, what are realistic expectations for this group up front that remind you last year the Jets starting 5 that was projected, we didn't see in training camp at all. And right now, like, we didn't see them work together as a unit. Right now, knock on wood, obviously, everyone reports to training camp fully healthy.
I mean, they're going to be much better. And there's a lot of things I like. Like, for those who have not watched Tyron Smith, he is really an excellent player. Like, he's a great athlete, but he's a true technician. And, a little bit of a different experience now that he's older. Like, how much is he gonna practice every day? Like, I don't know. And Dallas, this was sort of a big deal. I don't really care about that. Like, he's gonna make sure that he, keeps himself in a very good place, and I'm not worried about him at all. But I think the other thing is having Olu and not having to force him on the field is an unbelievable luxury. And, look, if Moses and Tyron stay healthy, then that's the way it'll be all year. Maybe he's the swing tackle. Maybe he comes in sometimes. I remember when I was covering the Patriots and they had Nate Solder, drafted him in the first round. Everyone thought it was weird that he was kind of just the swing tackle. And I'm like, no, like, this is how you do it. Like, this is how you get a guy ready. So that's, to me, I mean, that's an unbelievable luxury, and that's the way to properly do it. And that's why I think it was such a smart pick, because for me, like, if you get, you see what these guys get paid, right?
Yep.
If you get to draft a franchise left tackle and he becomes your guy, like, that's an unbelievable. That's almost as good as drafting a quarterback in the first round and having him for 15 years.
Yeah, you got a long-term vision there because Tyron Smith, 1-year deal. Morgan Moses, this is the final year of his contract. And what better guy to learn from than Tyron Smith, an 8-time Pro Bowler for Olu Fashanu?
That's exactly right. And, I'm sure Tyron will help him along. it's not always the veteran's job to like take the rookie by the hand, but he's going to get to watch.
Yeah,
he's going to get to watch one of the true greats. And again, like he's another one where I think Cowboys fans a little bit probably took for granted how good he was because like if you have a great left tackle, you don't really care because you don't pay attention to what he's doing. You really don't. Like
Right.
if you have a bad one, you certainly pay attention to it. But if you have a good one, you're kind of like, all right, like just do your job and let the guy throw. And like so, I think that's what it was kind of like for Tyron. Jets fans who have not always had great offensive line play will for sure appreciate how awesome he is.
He played 13 games last season. I think if you get in that kind of range, if you're the Jets, you'd be happy.
Win.
Right?
Win. 100%.
And it's a good thing to see Elijah Vera-Tucker taking practice reps. I know no pads are on right now, but to see him go through individual drills, like in the spring, he was off to the side, rehabbing from his Achilles injury. But this is my last question for you, and it's kind of twofold here. The Jets' defense has been top 5 each of the last 2 years with a revolving door at quarterback because of injuries and play and whatnot. With a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the offense in year 2, like how much of an effect do you think he has for the defense in games like that the Jets can really pin their ears back and get after quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean they're going to have leads, and that's going to be a little different. And it is going to be fun, I think, because they will be able to get after some quarterbacks. They'll have the lead. They'll have to close it out, and we'll see. But assuming Haason Reddick is part of it, be one of those guys that will be able to just really take advantage of a situation where they get to kind of do what they want. And that's, the other thing is, like, if you are, Ulbrich or Saleh, like, you can probably take some chances. You can do some things you might not otherwise do, knowing the offense is going to score. They're going to score. So, this is a pretty, still got to come together, still a lot of work to do, but should be a pretty complete team, and I think one that's going to be in a really good place.
Yeah, in a little less than 7 weeks, the Jets are going to open the season against the San Francisco 49ers. The final one for me would be, what are you most looking forward to this summer throughout the league?
A lot of rookie quarterbacks and seeing who plays. Like we got some word out of New England. Jacoby Brissett's probably going to be the starter. I think the Broncos will have a little more of an open competition. Obviously, Kirk Cousins and Atlanta is going to start and play hopefully for a couple of years. I mean, they're all. Jaden Daniels hasn't won the starting job yet. Caleb Williams has. How good are those guys? Where does it shake out? Do we get another C.J. Stroud? Who is it?
Yeah.
Is there one guy who hits the ground running and is just a star immediately? And is it Caleb Williams? Is it someone else? That's just like how that plays out is going to be awesome.
A lot of those situations are indirectly tied to the New York Jets because they open up at home in Week 3 against the Patriots, and it could be facing Jacoby Brissett. You talk about Week 4.
Sure.
Yeah, Week 4, the Denver Broncos coming to town. Is Zach Wilson facing the Jets? Minnesota, obviously replacing Kirk Cousins. The Jets going across the pond, Tottenham, to face the Vikings. And
is J.J. McCarthy playing?
Is it
Darnold?
Yeah. Could be another former Jet quarterback.
What's the date right now? It's July 24th. We're getting into October. I love it. Rap Sheet, appreciate the time. As always, here on Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. Today's not an open practice, but let's take a look at some of the important dates that are coming up here for the New York Jets. You think about Saturday being an open practice, Tuesday, July 30th, and the real thing to keep attention to is that tickets are available July 29th at 12 p.m. for those 3 Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday in August. And then you think about the next set of available tickets on August 12th at 12 p.m. And if you don't get tickets, because they're going like hotcakes right now, if you don't get tickets, you can see the Jets at MetLife. Kickoff is right around the corner, and you got to be there for every big matchup this season with the Jets 2024 season tickets. For more information on how to purchase, call or text 8004-695-387. All right, welcome back to Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen here on the studio deck, or the patio deck, should I say?
Or the balcony.
The balcony?
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to go with?
Sure.
Okay. The thing that I wanted to focus on real quick after Ian Rapoport was here is you asked him what he's most looking forward to across the league. What are you most looking forward to for training camp, specifically with the New York Jets?
I thought Tyler Conklin, the veteran tight end for the Jets, who had 61 receptions last year, a Grizzly vet, had a great summation of where the Jets are in 2024 compared to when they entered camp in 2023. He talked of hard knocks. He talked of the Jets reporting to camp 10 days early, playing in the Hall of Fame game, and then Aaron Rodgers, obviously, his first camp here with the Jets. Totally different landscape this year. I thought last year felt from the outside, not internally, but from the outside, it felt like, hey, this is a new show because Aaron Rodgers is in town. I don't want to say this is old hat because he took 4 snaps with the Jets in 2023. But with that being said, I don't think there is a sense of newness anymore. There is a sense of urgency for this team. They realize the expectations on the outside, and they're used to them, and they're ready to roll.
So I think that it's interesting because what you mentioned is like kind of the theme, I think, for the offense is year 2 in this system with Nathaniel Hackett. You talk about Tyler Conklin. I mean, even a guy like Garrett Wilson, we've talked about this before. It's weird to think about Garrett Wilson as a breakout player here with the Jets, considering he has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. But with a guy like Aaron Rodgers in the fold, it really feels like we saw Garrett at a very good level. We might see him at an even better level in 2024.
Well, he's the first Jet to go 1,000-yard seasons back-to-back since Keyshawn Johnson. I mean, what Garrett Wilson has done production-wise throughout his first 2 seasons is really remarkable, considering he's caught passes from 6 different quarterbacks. And he came to camp talking about, hey, listen, we have to win. But him individually, he said attack like 6 times during his news conference. And what he's done throughout the offseason was he set several goals in terms of what he wanted to improve on. And he came to camp at 187 pounds. Last year he said he weighed at 184, but he wants to be ready for the physical rigors of a 17-game season. Garrett Wilson has not missed a game so far in 2 years. Now he has the opportunity to play with a legendary quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and he's ready to rock and roll. And he's bigger, and he also worked on his speed. So he added a couple pounds of muscle, but he also talked about, hey, I got to be faster.
Ian Rapoport was up here talking about what I think is the number one, and what I think most people think is the number one storyline heading into training camp, which is that Haason Reddick has not been or has not reported to training camp for the New York Jets. Rapoport broke it down, but for more player reaction on Reddick not being here, let's go to Caroline Hendershot.
Yeah, Ethan, I think you both and Rapoport kind of broke down the situation between Haason and the Jets and what that could play out to look like. But I think the more important thing is how the players have been reacting. Yesterday, when Quinnen Williams was asked about it, he reminded all the reporters, I was actually in this situation same time last year. So I know how the organization works. I know that Haason wants to come here and wants to win championships. So everything's going to get ironed out. CJ Mosley also added that when it comes to contracts and things of that nature, it never really gets into the locker room because the players don't make those choices. So he knows that Haason has been a pro at the highest level. He knows that he wants to come here. So when that time does come, when he arrives, he's going to be ready to roll.
I think that with training camp, it's important to talk about position battles, right? So yeah. I wanted to start with the offense. Let's go one offense, one defense as we have 10 minutes left in the show. And with the offense, let's start with wide receiver, okay? I know we just talked about Garrett Wilson. He's obviously etched in as one of the premier players on this Jets roster, really one of the young premier wide receivers in the NFL. But you think about after that, Mike Williams is on the physically unable to perform list. That's the PUP list. He can be activated at any time. Robert Saleh has said that he's on the same timeline as Breece Hall, who didn't take preseason reps, but he was activated off of the PUP list last mid-August, right? So that means opportunities for some of the young guys. Think about Xavier Gipson, Jason Brownlee, Malachi Corley in the mix, and then a veteran with a renewed attitude, according to Robert Saleh, somebody like Alan Lazard, who clearly has chemistry with Aaron Rodgers from their days in Green Bay together.
Yeah, don't forget about Irv Charles either. big-bodied receiver who is a valuable contributor on special teams. We didn't see much of him throughout the spring. So it's going to be interesting. Who's going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities? You mentioned Mike Williams before. The Jets are going to take a similar approach to the one they did last year with Breece Hall. And that worked out pretty well for Breece Hall, I'd say, that he had more than 1,500 yards from scrimmage. But Mike Williams is a prototypical X-receiver, big-body guy who can win in contested battles. He's going to open up space for not only a Garrett Wilson, but for a Breece Hall. These snaps, reps in training camp, very important for a guy like Malachi Corley. He's going to be asked to do a lot of different things than he did at Western Kentucky.
Running back is another one of the positions that you can kind of circle as similar in terms of a position battle at wide receiver. You know you have your main horse. There he is, number 20, Breece Hall. It's really the guys behind Breece Hall that you think about competition. Israel Abanikanda, the second-year player out of Pitt, is in that. Two rookies, number 0, Braylon Allen, who looks like a linebacker, number 32, Isaiah Davis. Then you think about a guy like number 31, Tariq Cohen, who offers special teams value. That's really where he made his hay in terms of his days with the Bears. But he's obviously a running back, and he has the ability to both run the ball between the tackles, kick it outside, and he has the ability to catch the ball. I actually think that this group right here is very versatile. And then this guy, number 35, is someone who's forgotten, who was on the practice squad most of last year, is Xavier Valladay.
Yeah, and he got a lot of run during the spring. Listen, you have a star there in the offensive backfield in Hall, but you want to have him go on 17 games and then beyond and playing in the postseason. And the Jets drafted a couple interesting prospects there in Braylon Allen. He's going to be the youngest player in the National Football League out of Wisconsin. Everybody talked about how he flashed his hands.
Just look at him. He's huge.
I know.
It's incredible.
He doesn't need pads. So he flashed his hands throughout the spring, but he had nearly 50 receptions at Wisconsin. Isaiah Davis is an also guy who's very interesting, highly productive, small school, but he's a big-bodied back who I wouldn't be surprised if he got into the return mix as well. And don't forget about Izzy Abanikanda. Guy's got some explosion. I do think the system is a good fit for him. So we're going to see a lot of competition at the running back position. I think a lot of guys look good in shorts. That's not a knock at anybody. That's
Absolutely.
More to say, okay, when the pads come on next week and beyond, that's going to separate. We're going to see some separation at some point.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that this room is so young, even with Hall, but the guys behind him, two rookies, second-year player. The veteran of the group is Tariq Cohen, who was just signed in the spring. So that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, Cohen, listen, there's a guy that you root for from afar because he's been snake-bitten with his injuries the last couple of years. But when he was going in Chicago, he was one of the best return men in the National Football League.
Absolutely. Let's switch it back over to the defense here. Let's start with safeties. You think about just the room changes. Again, it's like running back. You kind of know who the starters are, but it's the guys that are behind Tony Adams and Chuck Clark. You think about Isaiah Oliver. You think about Jalen Key. Ashton Davis re-signed this offseason. This isn't all the safeties on the Jets roster. This is just some of the guys that are in the mix for that third and fourth spot on the team. And for what it's worth, the Jets like to deploy 3 safeties at a time at certain times.
Well, yeah, the big nickel. You bring back Ashton Davis, I should say. I'm very interested to watch Chuck Clark because we didn't have the opportunity to see him during training camp last year. He's a guy who played all over the defense for the Baltimore Ravens. Tony Adams continues to progress. I think he's an energizer bunny who adds some physicality. I like his game, and I think he's going to continue to progress. But like you said, Davis is another guy when you're talking about special teams. But down the line, it's interesting the tack that Jeff Albrecht took in OTAs. He made it clear that the Jets aren't just working him at nickel and safety. He's going to be solely a safety as he starts his Jets career.
You know, you mentioned Tony Adams. Caroline, didn't you speak to Tony Adams in the spring? What did he have to say?
I did speak to Tony Adams in the spring, and I know he's not necessarily competing for that spot that you're talking about because he was a starter last year, but he was competing for a spot last year this time. So I think like his growth in a year has been really incredible. And when we sat down this summer and talked together, he emphasized how much he wants to become an all-pro this year. That's his main goal. He wants to become an all-pro, and he wants to help this team to a Super Bowl. And he said, I know some people are going to think I'm crazy for this goal, but a lot of people didn't think I was going to make it to this point either, becoming a starter, getting on an NFL team, all of that. So I think with Chuck Clark's influence and all of his experience, I'm really excited to see what level Tony Adams can get to this year.
You mentioned Key before, too. Mr. Irrelevant, right? The final pick in the draft. Here's a guy who played at UAB and decided he was going to make that transition over to Alabama to play for Nick Saban in his final year. So that speaks to his smarts, his intelligence, that he would make that kind of jump in his last collegiate year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with Key also because most people think about Jalen Key as a draft pick. He is, but he's literally one pick away from being undrafted. So it's interesting to think about just like the roster complexion here. The other thing to think about is this time last year, JBC was a rookie, Jarek Bernard-Converse, as a safety.
Yeah.
In the spring, we saw him taking cornerback reps. He has experience at both, whether that was Oklahoma State or LSU. So that's something that I'm looking at here in training camp early. Is he taking reps with the corners? Is he taking reps with the safeties?
Yeah, no doubt. And then Al Blades is another guy I'd like to mention, number 34. So here's a rookie who's going to try to make an impression here early in camp. And we have gone basically our first training camp live without mentioning Quantez Stiggers. I know we're talking about the safety position, but I wanted to mention him as well. The Jets have the top 3 cornerbacks in football in terms of a trio, but Stiggers is an interesting guy to talk about from a depth perspective.
Totally. And he was a guy that had an interception in OTAs in the spring. So interested to see what he has to offer.
There's Sauce Gardner, huh?
You know what's so cool? There's Stiggers, number 37. Sauce is awesome. He was Rapoport saying that he was golfing a lot. So was Sauce in the offseason.
Oh, my God.
He's got a great swing for being so new.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. He must be having great swing coaches. Or he's on the golf course 24 hours a day. He's such a natural athlete. He doesn't get enough credit. People are like, oh, yeah, he's a good cornerback. He's long. He gets his hands on it. And by the way, I didn't like what that one personnel executive had to say about Sauce Gardner, about him holding out every play.
Yeah, no, I know.
Come on, man.
You know what did Salah say last year? You ain't got haters, you ain't popping. Sauce has a couple haters for sure, but he's also a 2-time All-Pro.
And he's hitting up 280 down the middle of the fairway, too.
Yeah, 280 might be selling it a little short here. So this is, Wednesday, first practice? First open practice is Thursday. But Saturday, you have to have your calendar circled because football is back. And you can tune in this Saturday for the latest from Back Together Weekend at Jets Training Camp presented by Honda. For more information and the latest camp updates, visit nyjets.com/camp. We are live that day as well, Saturday, July 27th. Circle your calendars. Hopefully it'll be a little more sunny, but also hopefully not because that means that we're probably getting torched here out in Florham Park. So make sure to tune in. And for all coverage with training camp, whether that be today, throughout the next month plus, be sure to check NewYorkJets.com every single day.